and welcome to another episode of Cake Fight Presents The Making Of. I'm writer, director, producer Paige Feldman, and this week, as every week, I'm taking you inside my process of making my debut feature film. We're going from idea to premiere in real time. So I'm on week 2 of taking some time off between my drafts of my script to ensure that I'm separated enough from it that it's not going to be that hard and that painful to cut the 40 pages I need to cut once I get into it. And because I have this time off, I know I said last week I'm reading scripts on the blacklist, and that is definitely true, and you can check out some of my reviews of them at the playlist up here. But I've also been watching movies, and I've specifically been watching to try to find some comparative titles. Now, comparative titles or comp titles, which is what people usually call them, or even comps, are films that are similar to the film that you are writing or making. You can pitch someone, it's this meets this, or it's kind of like that, but it also has a ghost. Whatever. Mine doesn't have a ghost. That's the idea. And it's good to watch them because, number one, you want to make sure that your film isn't essentially a carbon copy of something else. But that's the least of it. The more important thing is to know the industry, know the market, be able to speak confidently and with authority about what content is out there already and how your film is different. So it's not just about if, it's about how, and you knowing that. So I've been watching a lot of the especially pandemic-y-esque content because there are quite a few romantic comedies or friendship comedies like Language Lessons, Good Luck to You, Leo Grande, where it's two people in a room, their relationship developing. The one thing that I've been missing is a Jewish story, because there's not a lot of Jewish movies out there, and there's not a lot of Jewish romantic comedies out there. So when I heard that Hallmark was making a Hanukkah movie called HANUKKAH on Rye, I figured I had to check it out, especially because it stars 2 Jewish actors, Jeremy Jordan and Yael Grobglas. And Yael is a blonde Jew like me, which is really exciting because we don't tend to get a lot of play. And my expectations were pretty low. It was like an inch above the floor because Jewish rep in general is pretty de minimis. You'll get maybe a side character, maybe someone coded as Jewish, maybe a Holocaust victim, all of that. And yeah, it's nice to have a Jewish character, someone outwardly Jewish, but it's typically, honestly, with the exception of Seth Cohen on The OC and Trevor from Ghosts on CBS and Fran Fine on The Nanny, there's really not been much Jewish rep where I'm see myself as a modern person living in the world. Point is, my expectations were in the basement, and then I watched the movie and I was blown away. It wasn't only a respectful and accurate depiction of Hanukkah and Hanukkah rituals, it was also a depiction of being Jewish and things about how we look at the world and how we interact with our families and food and culture and traditions that rang true to me. It wasn't Hanukkah as a Christmas for Jews. It was Hanukkah for Hanukkah's sake, and being Jewish was celebrated in it. And so instead of I was going to, talk about Jewish rep and do a whole review and stuff. Instead of doing that, I made a list of all the Jewish moments in HANUKKAH on Rye, and we're going to tier rank them in terms of how Jewish and how accurate they are. So this will be fun. Okay, so here's our tier ranking. Here's our tiers. We have at top Barbara Streisand, Fran Drescher, Mel Brooks, Tevye level iconic. These are things that are just so Jewish, there's no words. Then Member of the Tribe. It's something that is very Jewish and is really only something that someone who is Jewish would be able to get accurately. Then Jewish. Technically, yes, this is a Jewish thing, but it sort of feels like somebody Googled it and called it a day. A bitte meshuga. So bitte is Yiddish for little. Hey, it's Paige from the editing room. I got myself a little bit confused with one of the 3 German words I know and the Yiddish. So the real way to say a little in Yiddish is a bissel, not bitte. Bitte is German. It's a bissel. So it should be a bissel meshuga. I figured that out it's 12:45 in the morning, about 7.5 hours before this video is going live. So Sorry, couldn't fix it. It's a bissel, not a bitta. All right, enjoy the rest of the video. Meshuggah is Yiddish for crazy, so it's a little nutso. Not Jewish. I mean, it's probably, like, yeah, maybe someone does this at some point. And a shanda, which is Yiddish for a shame, like a shame upon you and your family. Like, this is 100% not Jewish. This is someone playing Jewish Christmas. Someone that's making Hanukkah into something that it's not. And just to clarify, I said it's all the things in Hanukkah on Rye. It's 26 of the things. If I were to include every single thing, we'd be here for longer than the movie's runtime was with commercials. It's that Jewish. So let's start off first, mezuzah kiss. One of the characters kisses a mezuzah, which is a prayer that's in a, how do I explain mezuzah? A thing that's affixed to a door in a home and on the entrance to a home that has a sacred Jewish prayer scroll inside it, and they're decorative and pretty, and it's meant to protect the house, ward off evil, and also mark the house as a Jewish house. And traditionally, when you walk into a house or a room where there's one on the doorpost, you kiss your hand and then touch the mezuzah up on the door. So, mezuzah kiss, this is not like super iconic, but it's definitely something that like a Jewish person would do and a Jewish person would know. And so that's member of the tribe status. All right, using how the Torah is written as a metaphor is next. So this, I'm gonna put in Jewish. So Hanukkah on Rye is, you've got mail with deli owners. And so they're writing letters to each other through a matchmaker. And they both, the main characters, have anxiety about how do I write the letter? Like, how do I start? What do I do? And like, why letter? Why not text? Why not email? And someone says that it is, basically think of it how the Torah is written. Because the Torah, which is the scroll with all 5 books of what Christians call the Old Testament, with all 5 books of our Bible. I hate the word Bible because it's a Christian word, but anyway. The scribe who writes it has to do it perfectly. If they don't do it perfectly, if they make a mistake, the thing becomes, it's not sacred anymore, and it has to be respectfully disposed of. So the metaphor was sort of, there's stationery, there's a pen, you need to treat your words as carefully as if you were writing a Torah scroll. Like the metaphor, just having metaphors to Jewish things, that's very Jewish. But this kind of felt like someone Googled Jewish facts and then shoehorned a metaphor in. It was like, it's fine, and it was cool to have that reference and for me to be like, I recognize that reference. But it didn't feel organic. It didn't feel like it really fit. Okay, next. What if he gets there, and there wrong? Then we cancel the whole thing. So this is Molly, the female lead, being really anxious about the matchmaking situation because she doesn't really want to meet anybody. She's trying to take over her family deli and help it succeed. Just not enough time. And her anxiety is about like, he doesn't know the grammar. And her grandma says, well, if he doesn't know grammar, we'll cancel it. Doesn't matter. And that, to me, this whole thing, like, it's Barbara Streisand, Fran Drescher, Mel Brooks, Tevye level iconic. Anxiety about grammar, hyperbolic, somewhat overreaction, but they're not joking. They're gonna cancel if he gets there, and there wrong. It's nothing to do with like being Jewish in like a very concrete sense, in a ritualistic sense, but this attitude, this joke, this is Jewish. This is the voice of Jews coming forward in this movie. So that 100% iconic. Heating the bottom of the shamash before putting it back. Also iconic. So when you light a Hanukkah menorah, you have a candle called the shamash, which is the helper candle. You don't just like take a match and light all the candles, you light the helper candle, and the helper candle, called the shamash, lights all the others. And then when you're done with it, you have to put the shamash back in its little helper candle spot. And if you're not Jewish, you don't know, the helper candle spot is the like raised one in the menorah. But anyway, over the years, there's like a bunch of waxy buildup in the menorah, and sometimes the shamash doesn't stick all that well, and you don't want the candle to fall onto the table and burn stuff, and like that's why you usually put aluminum foil underneath the menorahs. But in order to prevent that situation, because then you'd have to relight the shamash and it's a whole thing, you just take the bottom of the shamash, as any Jew will do this, you put it over the flame of one of the candles that's already lit, and then you stick it into the menorah, and the melted wax will help it stick. It's a trick that everyone knows. It is a very Jewish trick. I actually went to a Hanukkah party at the rabbi's house last week, and there was a woman there who had just converted, and it was her first Hanukkah, and we let her light the menorah, and we told her about this trick, and so it like kind of felt like we were in like fully like inducting her into Jewishness. So watching Jeremy Jordan do that multiple Hanukkah menorah lightings, give me so much joy, so much nachas, pride. And then speaking of menorahs, or Hanukkahot, because there's a menorah is usually 7 branches, traditionally, at least, and then a Hanukkahot, which is the Hanukkah menorah, has 9. It's like every Hanukkahot is a menorah, but not every menorah is a Hanukkah. But they were everywhere. This is member of the tribe status, because I hate making like a Christmas reference, but like think of Hanukkah, think of menorahs like Christmas ornaments. You're not going to get one every year, but you'll collect some over the course of your life. I got one for my bat mitzvah, and then I inherited one when a set of my grandparents died, and my sister got one for her bat mitzvah, and then she bought one. She got into a new house, and you kind of just accumulate them over the course of your life until you end up having like 7 or 8 in your house, and you light them all at once. And so everywhere in the background of whether or not people were lighting the Hanukkah, there were menorahs just everywhere, all around in the background. It was fantastic. Magen David necklace. Yael Grobglas's character Molly wore a Star of David necklace. Magen just means shield in Hebrew, and so the Star of David is like the shield of David. It's like a protective symbol. This is, I'm putting it under Jewish because it's sort of like the bare minimum you could do for a Jewish character. If you wanted to make sure everyone knew someone was a Christian character, you put a cross necklace on them. It's the same thing. It's like, is this representation? Yes, but also no. Okay, Fiddler on the Roof. There were multiple Fiddler on the Roof references throughout Hanukkah on Rye. Yeah, on one hand, it's sort of like Jewish, like, oh, look, let's reference the one Jewish thing that we got. But also, like, part of the thing was that Jeremy Jordan's character, Jake, had never seen Fiddler on the Roof, which, like, that brings it up to member of the tribe, because not all of us have seen everything about other Jews. And then there's this part where he like is really excited about something. I'm not going to give any spoilers. It's really cute. And he slams his hand on the desk and he goes, "Wonder of wonder, miracle of miracles." And it's so cute. And so just like that moment itself, I have to put Fiddler on the Roof in Barbra Streisand, Fran Drescher, Mel Brooks, Tevye, Fiddler on the Roof, Tevye level, iconic. Also, I don't quite care for Fiddler on the Roof all that much. I'd love to see the Yiddish version in New York right now, but the show itself kind of feels like stuck in a moment in the past, and not just like Anna Tevka in the early 20th century, late 19th century, but like in the 1940s and 50s when it was made. I feel like there's better Jewish stories that could be told out there, even about that time, because that was like the time that also my great-grandparents came over to the US, so like more perspectives on that. Anyway, lighting the menorah. I'm going to put this in member of the tribe, because while it is Jewish, it's the bare minimum you can do, but they sang all of the blessings. There's 2 blessings you have to sing. They didn't sing, there's 3 blessings on the first night, including the Shechianu, which is a prayer thanking God for bringing us to this moment in time, and we say it whenever something new happens. Maybe it's not your first time lighting the menorah, it might be the first time, it's the first time in the year. So it's not just lighting the menorah, it's lighting the menorah with the proper blessings and over the course of 8 nights. It isn't just, we're gonna light on the 8th night and have all the candles there. It's no, you light the 1 on the first night and 2 on the second night, and that whole process. And it made it really feel like we were watching Hanukkah, and not just we were watching Hanukkah as imagined by someone who's not Jewish and who's just trying to put out content so that we'll be happy and shut up. Which is what it feels like sometimes. All right, everyone feeding Jake. That is Barbra Streisand, Fran Drescher, Mel Brooks, Tevye level iconic. So I said that this movie is You've Got Mail with deli owners, and the deli owners are Jake and Molly, who are the 2 romantic leads. And Jake is coming over from Los Angeles to maybe try to help his family open a branch of their deli in New York in the Lower East Side. But no one really knows that because like he befriends Molly before he can really say anything, and then he gets to the deli and all of a sudden, before anyone can say anything, everyone's just shoving food at him. Like, try my pastrami, try the corned beef. Oh, you should try a latke. And then like cut away. And then, next scene, there's 12 plates in front of him with a variety of Jewish food. And it's just, yes. Because that's what I do. I meet like someone who's a friend of a friend, like, oh, what can I bring? What can I get you to eat? This is iconic. This is exactly what we do. We just feed people. Oh, you're friends with my friend. You're friends with my family member. Okay, you're one of us now. Have some food, sit down. We'll talk. We'll become friends too. So Hanukkah song contest. Context for this one is that Molly is trying to find ways to drum up more business at her family's deli during Hanukkah. And with some help from Jake, she kind of came up with this idea of having a Hanukkah song contest for a large supply of latkes as the prize, because there's so few good Hanukkah songs. There's like really 2 in English, and there's a bunch in Hebrew, which I learned at that party with the rabbi's house, but Hebrew is not my first language. It's not really even my second language either. Like, I know how to read it and stuff, and I know a bunch of prayers, but like I couldn't really have a conversation in it. So having a Hanukkah song contest that's like kind of feels like a Jew-ish idea. Like, oh yes, there's only like, we only know a couple songs in English, so there's only 2 Hanukkah songs ever. But Lisa Loeb stops by, is like a cameo, and she's like sings an actual Hanukkah song that she wrote, which is awesome. And then there's also a song about jelly donuts, or sufganiyot, which are a Hanukkah food, because Hanukkah is about the miracle of oil lasting 8 nights when it should have only lasted 1 night. And so to commemorate that, we eat foods fried in oil, and donuts are fried in oil. So there was this like jelly donut song. It was hilarious. It was very silly. And that song itself was probably iconic, but with like the combination of like not a lot of Hanukkah songs with all of this amazingness, we're going to even it out at Member of the Tribe. All right, Sufganiyot. We're going to put this in Member of the Tribe as well, because they mentioned them. This sufganiyot is Hebrew for jelly donuts, and it references a specific kind of jelly donuts. And there was a whole like jelly donut class that was featured. And the fact that food other than latkes for Hanukkah was talked about, yeah, Jews are involved in this for sure. Okay, latkes and latke recipe. I'm putting this in a bit of meshuggah, because here's the deal. So a centerpiece of this film is the fact that there is a latke recipe at Molly's family's deli that is the best latkes in New York City. And they make them great, and people line up around the block to get latkes. Okay, that's fine. Except, number 1, latkes are so easy to make. I don't know practically anybody who doesn't just make their own latkes, including people who don't really cook at all. Number 2, latkes are kind of, in my opinion, like Jewish guacamole, where everyone has their own recipe and everyone thinks their recipe is the best. I don't buy for a second this idea that there's the best latkes in New York City and there's a secret family recipe. Because number 3, the recipe for latkes is 3 potatoes, 1 onion grated, an egg beaten, 3 tablespoons of flour or matzah meal, and salt and pepper to taste. Mix it all up, fry it in canola oil or sunflower oil or whatever kind of oil you want that's not olive oil, because that has too low of a smoke point, until crisp. The end. I just shared my secret family recipe, latke recipe, with you. That is going to be the same recipe that almost everybody uses. Unless you're making something weird like sweet potato latkes or zucchini latkes, in which case it's a different animal. All of this, like, we have the best latkes in New York City and people are lining up around the block for them. Like, no, people are just going to go buy potatoes and onions and make them at home. Or they'll maybe get like 1 order for takeout, but no one's going to be convinced that these are the best latkes in the world. If you are out there and you have like the best latkes in the world at some sort of deli or something and you want me to try them, let me know about it. Comment in the comments. I just, like, this whole conceit was dumb, and I don't believe for a second that there's a secret family latke recipe that's so secret that no one can be in the kitchen while somebody makes it. On the opposite side, upside down dreidel spinning. So there was dreidel spinning Dreidel is a little top, and it's a game that you play during Hanukkah. You play for coins or for chocolate coins, really. You spin a dreidel. That's cool. There was dreidel spinning there. If I put that in my list of things, I would put it under Jewish because, like, yeah, you can Google what people do on Hanukkah and you'll get dreidel spinning. However, there is one scene where Jake is spinning the dreidel, and he does it by holding it upside down and spinning it on its little stick. And that is something that we do in Hebrew school and Sunday school when we were growing up. That is a super Jewish thing to do. It's a fun trick, and that having that in a movie, that is iconic. The lox argument, another iconic moment. Molly and Jake stand around a buffet table filling up their bagels with lox and schmear, and they have an argument about the best way to load up a bagel. And I'm going to tell you they're both wrong, because Molly says she like smashed the capers into the cream cheese, and then you put the tomato and the onion and the lox on top so that like the lox covers everything. And then Jake says, no, you put the lox on first as like a base, and then you load it up with all the toppings on top. And let me tell you, number one, tomato does not belong on a lox and bagel. It detracts from the like more briny flavors. Capers and onions, yes. And really, like, I don't really like capers on it, but I'll like let some capers kind of slide onto my lox, and I'll put that on top. So if I'm not really feeling the capers on it, I can just let them fall onto the plate. But you put the onion down first so it gets stuck into the cream cheese, and then you put the lox over, and then you put some capers on top. That's how you load up the lox and bagel. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. Regardless, this argument is iconic. A public menorah lighting. I'm putting it in, it's a bit of meshuggah, but it's also Jewish. So the deli in this story has a giant menorah like the ones that Chabad will have around a city. Like a big 8-foot tall one with little light bulbs, and you turn the light bulbs on. And then they'll light it in public, and there's a whole ceremony every night, and people come and sing the blessings. It's a good tool narratively for this story, but I've never seen anyone be there like, you know, like having a scheduled public lighting night after night at one of these giant menorahs. And also most people want to go light their own Hanukkiot at their own homes. It's a good like movie thing, but it's a bit of meshuggah. It's not a thing. We don't have menorah lightings like Christians have Christmas tree lightings. It's not. And speaking of Christmas trees, the courtesy menorah mention. This goes in a member of the tribe. One of the characters says that they're really glad to see so much Jewishness around the block, like including this giant public menorah lighting, because it's so much better than what we usually get in stores and in hotels, which is the courtesy menorah mention. You like look through the Christmas decorations. It's a Where's Waldo, and there's one Hanukkiah in the corner. Yeah, it's not cute, and that is something that's very like a member of the tribe. We're all a little bit bitter about it, but we also don't quite want as much attention because we don't want all of the things that are like a bit of meshuggah to come out. Okay, egg creams. This is a personal bias because I love egg creams. Egg creams are something my dad introduced me to when we visited New York. He's from upstate New York originally. An egg cream is a chocolate soda. It's delicious. It's a very Jewish deli thing. And the movie opens on Molly trying to figure out how to make an egg cream. For me, it's iconic because I was like, I immediately knew I was at home in this movie because of it. And this, I'm gonna skip ahead because the family recipe needs to be taught. You can't just follow instructions. That's what Molly's bubby told her when she was trying to make the egg cream, because Molly said, I followed the recipe perfectly. And her bubby's like, no, you gotta whisk it like that, not like that. And that kind of oral tradition mixed with like written down recipes, that is just, that's everything. I literally, in order to learn how to make strudel and also the dough, which can be used for knishes, which are these potato and meat dumplings, which are delish, I had to go to see my mom in St. Louis, and she gave me the recipe for this dough, but then she had to teach me how to roll it, how to stretch it, how to do all of these things to it, because the recipe doesn't tell you. I have a secret family cookie recipe where even if you were to read the recipe, if you weren't taught how to do it, you wouldn't know how to actually make the cookies. And this kind of oral tradition and passing down secrets and tricks of the trade through food. So iconic, so Jewish, just everything that I remember growing up with. And so I loved, especially because that was right at the beginning of the movie, I knew I was like, oh, I'm in good hands here. And speaking of Bubby and Bubby, I have two because they were both spelled differently, and Molly and Jake both call their grandmothers Bubby. First of all, I just want to call it to my shirt right here. It says Sandel's Pharmacy, Monroe Avenue. It's in Rochester, New York. This is the pharmacy that my grandma and great uncle owned. My grandma's maiden name was Sansel. She was a pharmacist, or she's still a pharmacist. She doesn't work anymore. And this was their family pharmacy. And because so much of this movie is about legacy, I figured, and like grandparents especially, I figured I'd wear this shirt in honor of my grandma today. But I call her Grandma Phyllis, and I called my mom's mom, my other grandma, Gami. And the only grandparent that I called Bubby was my great grandma, my great grandma, who was my mom's dad's mom. I didn't call any of my other grandparents Bubby. And I know very few of my Jewish friends who have kids whose kids call their parents Bubby and Sadie. Not that it's wrong, but it's not universal. So this is a Jewish thing, but I'm putting it in Jewish to have everyone being called Bubby. It just feels very like, I Googled Jewish grandma. So that's where that is. The ch in Hanukkah. So the letter here is a chet. Chet makes the ch sound, that like ch in the back of your throat, like you got something you're stuck out. And that's, you say the letter ch. Hanukkah doesn't start with an H, which it starts with a chet in Hebrew. And Hebrew starts with a hey, and well, Hebrew starts with an H, but in Hebrew is Ifrit, so it starts with not a, anyway, digression. Yael Grobglas, who is a French-Israeli actress, she's Israeli, so she definitely has the like Israeli pronunciation of these words. And Jeremy Jordan, they're saying the Hanukkah with the ch, and that is something that is for the members of the tribe, because the Americanized version, because we don't have a ch letter, because CH doesn't quite work. KH is actually better, but no one spells things KH in transliteration. Would just be to say Hanukkah, but it's Hanukkah. What ship did your family come in on? This is a conversation that is had multiple times throughout the film. It is about like, when did your family come over? And this conversation is something that pretty much every Jewish person has at some point, especially as you're building a relationship with someone. You always want to know, like, hey, when did they come over? Why did they come over? Because every Jew is an immigrant. We have been kicked out of more countries in the world, more places in the world, been told, had to flee. It's a whole mess. So we all have a different story. And something I loved about Hanukkah on Rye is that nobody came over because of the Holocaust. I'm saying too much. No one came over because of the Holocaust. That's not the only tragedy that has befallen Jews. That's not the only reason we've emigrated. There's so much history about why we've come over and when we've come over. It's not just the fact that we come from immigrants and their families did. It's the fact that we carry those stories over, and stories are passed through us because, especially for those members of families who came through Ellis Island, half of my family did, another half came through in the San Francisco area. Names were changed and lost, and the things that they had to take with them. There's so few things that all we had are stories. And so the story of when did your family come over and what ship and all of this, that's iconic. Just the fact that conversation was in this movie. How to get wax out of a menorah, another iconic moment. Why is this not going? We'll put it there and then we'll move it up. So like I said earlier, menorahs have a lot of waxy buildup, and there are a bunch of ways to get wax out of a menorah, and a couple ways were discussed, just sort of mentioned casually. No big deal. Like using a walnut pick, putting it in the freezer, which I hadn't heard yet, but I'm gonna try. And my personal favorite, which wasn't mentioned, but if you want a tip, here's a tip. You pour boiling water over it, and that melts the wax, and you just pour it all out. Works great. And you get some of the wax unstuck from the body of the menorah too. All right, we're almost done. Got 4 more. Manischewitz. I'm putting this in Jewish. because someone mentioned Manischewitz wine. Manischewitz is a kosher wine that's often used for ceremonial purposes, and it's super sweet. Manischewitz could kind of be member of the tribe because, yeah, we all know what Manischewitz is, but it's also one of those like easily Googleable, here's a Jewish thing that we can mention to just like make you feel represented. But I appreciate that Manischewitz was mentioned because it's always fun when it is. The Hamsa as decor. I'm gonna put this up in member of the tribe, I guess. A Hamsa is like a hand thing that goes like, there's like usually like 2 thumbs, so like that. And it is a symbol meant to help ward off the evil eye. It is cross-cultural. It's used in Islam and a lot of Middle Eastern symbology as well. But there's a lot of Jewish significance to them, and there were several hanging up as decor, especially in Molly's apartment, which was pretty cool. Solid choice, great set decorating. Thumbs up, member of the tribe. Lisa Loeb. We're gonna move. Lisa Loeb is Barbra Streisand, Fran Drescher, Mel Brooks, Tevye level iconic. If Adam Sandler's Hanukkah song doesn't tell you anything, it's that we know who our fellow members of the tribe are, and we're very proud of them. And so putting Lisa Loeb into this movie, having her write a Hanukkah song, that's iconic. That feels like representation, to be like, hey, this pop star, she's one of us. And she's gonna give back to the community. And it gave me a warm and fuzzy feeling inside, especially because Stay is one of my karaoke songs, like my favorite karaoke songs. Not just because Lisa Loeb's Jewish, but also it's in my range and it's a fun song to sing, and it's pretty short and not very repetitive. Fun tip about karaoke songs, make sure that the chorus doesn't repeat 12 times at the very end, otherwise you and everyone else is gonna get real sick of you singing those same 7 words over and over and over again. And finally we have Matchmaker. And the conceit of Hanukkah on Rye is that we have a matchmaker who is setting up Jewish singles and making them communicate via letters, which gets us to the You've Got Mail situation. The idea of a matchmaker is very like Fiddler on the Roof Jewish, and I appreciate how much Fiddler on the Roof reference there was with the addition of this matchmaker. I think a lot, like at first I was like, oh, that's a bit of a sugar, like, you know, like matchmakers exist and it's a nice narrative device, but it's not super Jewish. But then I thought about it and I realized, actually, I have a few friends who are matchmakers, all Jewish. I have another few friends who've used matchmakers, all Jewish. Like, matchmaker is definitely part of our culture, and it's more relevant than you might think at first glance. Like even JDate, that's like modern matchmaking with the app and stuff. But matchmaker, that's going to be member of the tribe level, and sort of a like, if you aren't a member of the tribe, you're going to think that's a bit of Meshuggah, but actually, it is not. So here is the full tier ranking of all the Jewish things in Hanukkah on Rye. We have more things that are iconic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 things that are iconic. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that are a member of the tribe level. Only 4 that are Jewish. Only 2 that are a bit of Meshuggah, and then none that are a shanda. This is Jewish representation, friends. It's great. And I know, like, here's the thing. Hanukkah on Rye is a Hallmark movie, but it actually made me laugh out loud. Not just because of these Jewish things, not because, you know, it's the humor is there. It also corrects some of the things I don't like about You've Got Mail. I loved this movie, and I'm gonna make it a yearly viewing tradition, and I've already recommended it to like 5 people. So if you want to see what a Jewish romantic comedy looks like, if you want to see what a Hanukkah romantic comedy looks like, or a Hanukkah movie looks like without like an infiltration of like Christian values or Christian perspective, watch Hanukkah on Rye. And hopefully someone, when I make my movie, whatever this untitled contained romantic comedy is, a Jewish person will watch it and be like, oh, that's a lot of Jewish things. Oh, I feel seen. Watching this movie has helped reinvigorate, not that I needed reinvigorating, but like it really like, it brought it up to the top. My desire to make a movie that helps Jews especially feel seen and heard and worthy of love. And that's a great Hanukkah present. So that's it for this week. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next week when I'm actually going to be rewriting my script here on Cake Fight Presents The Making Of.